Welcome to Homeschool Your Way. I'm your host, Janna Cook, and Bookshark's community manager. Today, you might want to grab an apron and think about where in the world you and your child would like to travel. My guest is Rowena S. She is the creator of Eat to Explore, and we're going to be talking about how her program can help you and your children not only spend quality time together, learning how to cook, but explore the world as you go to different countries, learning about culture, geography, plus my favorite part, food. Rowena, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Janna.
I'm super excited to talk about not only Eat to Explore and what it offers your customers, but also the heart behind it and your story of why you created it.
So Eat to Explore was born, first of all, Eat to Explore is actually a food and cultural experience in a box, cooking kit. And the mission behind it is really to teach kids and to have kids learn with their family about the world through food. So it's, even though it's a cooking kit, it does an immense amount of information to learn the history and geography and music and art of the country. So that's basically Eat to Explore in a nutshell.
And what did you want to accomplish when you decided to create this program?
So there's a story behind it. I actually call it my onion aha moment, because a few years ago, in 2016, at a spring break, I took my family to Thailand, and we were in a cooking class. And my two children at that time was 9 and 12, and they were like looking at this onion. They're like, "Mom, what do you want me to do with it?" And I was sort of like disappointed, because I grew up cooking with my mom and my sisters. It was like every weekend, or, on Sunday, we cook together. And that's how I developed the passion for food and cooking. And then I look at my children and they were like, "I don't know what to do with this onion." So it was disappointing. But then I feel like it's my fault. I have been a mom that is so worried about them getting hurt, and I don't want them in my kitchen. Like I totally fail as a parent. And that kind of a moment where it dawned on me that I should let my kid fail. They need to learn how to cut themselves or cut the food and hurt themselves, and then you'll never do it again. And it's a life skill. Food, they're very good at eating. They're very good at try different food, and they love to travel. But cooking is such a life skill that if you don't develop the confidence when you're younger, it's harder when you're older to pick it up, to have the confidence to start. So I at that moment sort of like took a pause and said, "Hey, do I, I've been working on Wall Street and been working full time as a working mom. But I sort of like look back and say, what is my passion? Do I have the next phase in me to like try to and build something totally different?" That's where Eat to Explore idea came about. So it's sort of following my passion of cooking and traveling and culture and learning, and most importantly, education, like educating the next generation to be a better global citizen and more aware of what's happening around the world.
You're definitely in good company because I have said on the podcast numerous times, I feel like I'm failing my children most days, but the inspiration that out of those feelings of failure, that instead of letting it kind of overtake us, it can inspire us to change, to do something different. And then our children can see us modeling that change, and then they'll want to start being more, adventurous in taking steps to fail.
Exactly. I always say Eat to Explore kind of immerse three different feelings and experiences. I mean, one of them is it's truly a family cooking event, right? You can have one child cutting the onion, another child cutting the pepper, and then everyone has a role, and then you're kind of doing it together, and then sit down and eat the meal as a result of all the effort. And also take that moment as a parent to teach the children how to cut, or talk about stories. And so that's definitely one very big important part. Is we want families to get together over Eat to Explore and explore together. And the other thing, second thing is expanding their palate. You know, a lot of children, and that's another reason I started is I see a lot of my kids' friends, they only eat pasta and pizza. I mean, there's so much going on in the world. There's like, you know, Indian spices, South Korean condiments, and so it's a great way to try different things. And children, they might not like it the first time, but after of several times, they will try it, right? Especially when they feel like they are putting the effort in making it, they're more likely to at least give it a taste. And over time, that will develop their palate to be able to taste different food. And one thing that we always try to do is we don't make our spices or our sauces chili spice, like not spicy that it will kind of burn them. It's more like you have the flavor without the chili spice, heat spice. And then the third thing, of course, is coming down to global education. You want to teach them and talk about where is this country in the globe and where is it located, what temperature, what you know, is it northern, southern hemisphere, so there's geography behind it. And then there's history too, because you learn about where that's the spices, why does, you know, Peru has Asian influence, you know, they're all the immigrants, and what about Brazil, and what about, you know, Kenya, why does, you know, it has the British influence. And so I find it so fascinating, and it's such a fun way to learn when you're actually sitting down together and exploring it as a family.
And as you were introducing this to your family, your children who had not been in the kitchen with you, they hadn't had these experiences, what would you say is a good way for parents to kind of combat that resistance when they have this exciting idea? This is me. I'll get a great idea and I want to do it with my family. And I come against resistance and maybe I push through, but it's a flop. And then I think, why do I even bother? And I can't be the only one who feels that way when trying to introduce new things to the family.
I always said, you know, don't, it's a fight, right? Always constant fighting with the children. You gotta, but one thing for sure, children loves routine, and even when they're young, they love routine. So if you make it like a family routine of weekly cooking together, and say, hey, this is just pick a weekend, like is it Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, or lunch, and then say, hey, let's commit together. Let's make this our time where we cook and then we sit down, we eat. And don't make it overwhelming, like just once a weekend, and then maybe you miss a weekend, or and that's why Eat to Explore is only 3 recipes. We don't want to overwhelm the family. It's only 3 that you expect that you explore each month. And then make it fun by playing the music and say, hey, after we eat, we are going to watch a movie from about this country, right? Like we have a customer who was so happy where they made a Jamaican food and they played reggae music as they were cooking. And then after that, they went and watched Cool Running, which is about, you know, the Jamaican in the Winter Olympics. So it's sort of like a family event. And I feel especially when the kids are not young adults, when they're like between 5 to 12 to 13, they want to just spend time with you. So make this a routine, and then they will not think otherwise. So
I do love that it's only 3 recipes per box because I think just human nature tends to be very overwhelmed quickly, especially in our society. So if we are asking parents to overhaul their entire menu and how they do it, and you know, this idea that we have to change everything, that's not at all what Eat to Explore is. It actually is just a single experience when it works for you. And I have found that one of the great things about the product is I don't have to go to the store and hunt for things that my store might not even carry in my region.
yes, that's the uniqueness of Eat to Explore. Is we give you all the hard to find spices, sauces, and even grain mixes like injera mix from, or tef flour from Ethiopia, or cassava from Peru. So that sort of makes it easier. And all you need to do is use this shopping list and then buy your basic ingredients. One other thing to also notice is I love encouraging families to bring their children to the supermarket and then give them this. Either you can scan it and put it on your phone, or just give them this where they can walk around the aisle, you know, give them a $20 budget and say, hey, get all these ingredients and let's cook together. So give them something to learn, an activity to do together as well, in addition to the cooking part of it.
Now, I know that as a an avid person who loves to cook, you may not believe this, but I bought curry one time and I'm pretty sure it's still in my cabinet and it might actually have gone bad because I only used it like twice. I think maybe I made something and my family is kind of like, and I was like, okay, so I guess we're not going to use that again. But with Eat to Explore, that's not going to happen.
Yep. We all come in little packs. One example I love to give is fish sauce. So this is our Thai box it's our featured country this month. So our Thai box comes with a Thai green curry, which comes from Thailand. And one of the things is fish sauce. And this is a great example. You can never buy fish sauce this size. You get a big bottle and then you only need a dash. And some people just don't like the smell or the taste. It's kind of strong. So, and then you buy it because the recipe called for a dash of fish sauce, a teaspoon, and then you have this big bottle sitting in the fridge or in your pantry, and you don't know what to do with it. So Eat to Explore is a great way to experience it. And then if you like it, you can then go ahead and buy a big bottle of curry, or sumac is another one that's usually used in the Lebanese and Middle Eastern dishes. And it's like literally a pinch, and you have to pay so much for like a big bottle of it.
I know in our household, I had purchased some sriracha for a recipe. I had never used it before. I'm not even sure I'd ever tasted it before. And surprisingly, my youngest daughter loved it. She puts it on scrambled eggs. I mean, she is going through bottles of it. And I have now purchased the big bottles at Sam's Club that comes in two. And I'm like, where is the sriracha? Like, I never would have guessed that she would have loved sriracha had we not tried it. And then we're able to find the big bottle. It's funny about fish sauce, though. Although it smells peculiar, it actually flavors the dish in an amazing way. Because when I think of fish sauce, I think I've grew up in the Midwest fishing and cleaning fish and cooking fish. And so it's like that fishy smell. And you think that's not going to taste good. But when we kind of suspend disbelief and are brave enough to try something different, you can be very pleasantly surprised.
Yes, exactly. Fish sauce is used in a lot of northern Asia, like Cambodia, Thai, Vietnam dishes. And you just need a little bit and add that umami taste to it. But you gotta be courageous enough to like put some dash in it, in every little thing. It actually adds a lot of great flavor.
Yeah, and don't be put off when you open it up, the immediate smell
That's
that comes off of
very
it.
strong of anchovies. Yes.
Just talking about your spices and the way that you guys package your boxes. Would you love to tell our audience a little bit about how you guys find the particular spices that you use and how that feeds into the mission of Eat to Explore?
So our boxes, we try our very best to get them from the country, or the origins, but our spices, like dry spices, is so I'm a French culinary trained, and more with our boxes, we actually work with some local chefs, and we work together to curate the ingredients, the spices. And when it's dry spices, we actually use a supplier that is a McCormick supplier, and so it's high quality. And sauces, more and more sauces, we try to get them directly from the country, and grains as well. So it all depends on the box. So and we curate it. We pack them into in a smaller size. That's for all spices and sauces are 4 adult servings.
And this is kind of birthed out of your experience as a child cooking with your you said your mom and your sister. So when you were a child doing that, is there a feeling or a passion that you had that you really wanted to replicate not only in your own family, but then you wanted other families to experience that?
So when I told the story about, thinking back that's kind of how I grew up, and I never thought of it. Is like every Sunday we just always ended up cooking together. And then when I look at my children, I'm like, I miss that tradition. I wish I had that tradition growing up with my children, which I later on started as I started to explore. And I'm proud to admit, like actually proud to share that both my children can cook very well, especially my daughter, who only eats her own cooking. She makes all 3 meals by herself, and she loves what she loves, and she'll make it herself. And I think that routine sort of always stays with me. And even when I came to the US after working and also finishing my MBA, I just wanted to kind of hone in and improve that skill, which is why I took French culinary courses at the French Institute for almost a year every weekend, and that's because of the experience and the passion I have growing up, because of the exposure with my family. So.
And we have talked before in the past about how in our society, we really lack that quality time, which is such an organic place, the kitchen, right? Like the dining room table where the family just shares. We share our hearts, we share our hurts, we share our highs and our lows. And in the busyness of our society, we really have lost that gem. And this is an opportunity, like we said, even if it's only 3 times a month, you have it on your calendar, you're being purposeful to create these emotions and good feelings with your children so that they can carry them on into their families when they leave.
I totally agree with that. And not only that opportunity to be together, that the relationship that you build when your kids are like from 5 to 12, and you share your fears, your emotions, your happiness, your stories, your friendships, that create a sort of an avenue of comfort zone with your kids, that as they grow out, they will have the ability to talk to you. I think, as you know, with technology too, when you're cooking, you can't be playing with your computer. You got to get your hands dirty, right? And so you have no social media, no anything to keep your kids busy. They just need to be focused in chopping and talking and interacting with you. So taking that moment, a pause for everybody from their mobile, is a good thing. And that building a relationship with your children helps when they're much older. And as we know, teenagers are hard, right? They will have peer pressure, they have social media bullying or whatever. But if you have that avenue to talk to your children, even once a weekend, and have them open up, that goes a long way when they much older, and they probably don't want to do it every weekend. But having that open conversation is going to help building the relationship with your children.
If we have listeners who are just not comfortable in the kitchen themselves. So when I hear these, different countries and different experiences and flavors, I'm thinking could be overwhelming. How am I going to manage this when I can barely bake chicken with a little bit of seasoning, right? I don't even know where to start. How simple is your program for a family who has almost zero experience in the kitchen?
It's actually very easy. Cooking is not hard. It's about confidence. And we have, for every recipes, we give step by step, 4 to 6 steps with bullet points, and it's very clearly explain how it's done. And there's photos to show you how it looks like. So it's like it has photos, it has very detailed steps. Any children or kids can look at it and follow the steps and be able to make it. The other thing about the difference between cooking and baking has to be precise, right? Cooking, you can cut your cubes a little odd sizes, but it still be fine. But it's a matter of confidence. And then as you get better with your knife skills, you might be able to dice it really small, but initially it might be a little bit bigger, but when you cook it, it kind of tastes great regardless. So it's always about the spice that's kind of make the difference. And what our recipes is called for is like basic chicken or vegetables that you can get, and so it's not hard. You have to take the first step, and that's what it is.
And we know that sometimes it's that first step that tends to be the most scary, where we then know we gain the confidence, right? With each step. I tell my girls all the time, when I was younger, I used to love to make chocolate chip cookies. I can't even count the times I've wrecked the cookies. I forgot an ingredient. I didn't do it in the right steps. I forgot and burnt the cookies. But now I have friends show up and I'm like, "Oh, you guys want some cookies? I can whip up cookies like without even looking at a recipe." But it's letting failure happen
Mhm.
and knowing that it's a natural part of life, because there are dishes that I have made that were just, I don't know that I've ever made anything that wasn't edible, but definitely my family was like, we don't have to make that one again. And instead of going, oh, that's personal and I just shouldn't, I'm not good at it, I'm not going to do it anymore, you can just recognize, like, okay, well, not that one, but that doesn't mean we're not going to try another one.
Right. Right. Exactly. It's all at the end of the day, it's about confidence of your knife skill, confidence to, make a meal and share it with everybody. So like everything in life, the more practice you have, the better you get.
Now, how often did you ruin things when you were going through your cooking classes?
I think by the time I do my cooking classes, I was pretty proficient. But when I was younger, I remember like when I was younger, I used to like in tears when my mom started like criticizing me. And I think one thing to learn is as a parent is it's not criticize but encourage. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I told my kids when they were initially cutting, I'm like, it's okay, it doesn't have to look perfect, and as long as you try, I'm glad you try it. So I think that's actually a better way to do than criticizing. So that's lesson learned from my mom to not be the same.
Oh, Rowena, we all have those, and our
I
children,
know,
I'm sure, have those about us as
I
well.
know, exactly.
I do like that idea of encouragement over criticism, because you don't know what you don't know. And even though you have a picture of someone who has done it professionally and understands how it all works together, if your picture doesn't match up with what the creator said, it's like, okay, well, maybe next time you'll get closer, or yours doesn't ever have to look like that person's. It's all about interpretation, right? And especially with cooking, it is all about taste. My husband has this thing that he likes to say, "You're not much for presentation, are you?" I thought, I'm not, but I mean, it tastes good. So what does it matter what it looks like? So that's something
Exactly.
maybe in this next year I'm going to try to do a little bit better, be more aware of my presentation. But it's pretty funny that he would even notice that. But that's important to him, where it's just not important to me.
Right.
Like, did it?
Right. 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 But we actually have like always a final product look on our recipe cards, and I know some children like to like present it the same way kind of things to make it beautiful. So it's fun. It's a fun thing. I think kids love, and I also feel more and more it's like a good time now because you have kids watching Food Network and all the TV and cooking shows, and so they also want to try. So this is a great way to encourage that passion, and it's a life skill. So I really think every children should learn how to cook.
I was watching a YouTube video of brothers that were going through one of your holiday boxes and making cookies from different places around the world. And I loved, in one of the clips, they said, well, this was the one that looked the best. And he talked about how when he had rolled out the dough, some were thicker, some were thinner, and then they presented the best ones. And I think that's such a great way to look at it. Like, you're always going to have, especially when you're baking or cooking, it's like some get a little crispier because they weren't as thick, or they didn't get quite done, but you always have that opportunity. But I have to tell you, those young boys, they did a great job, and their cookies looked like the picture.
It's great when you see when we get receive photos, videos from customers, and it makes me very happy.
Well, they were definitely happy working through those different types of cookies, and they did a great job, which really does help people see that it is doable, that these aren't complicated. It's not to create stress or make you feel like a failure. You're actually setting your customers up to succeed with their children in the kitchen while having these amazing experiences around the world.
Yeah, thank you. I truly believe it's a great way to learn. And we have 23 countries now, and we have two, as you say, as you found out, the two world baking kits around the world, and we always want to keep adding, and we aim to add 2 new countries every year, and a new dessert box every 2 years. So
And then you do have some different options for dietary restrictions as well.
yes, we have a regular one, and then we have a vegetarian optional, which is also vegan optional, and then a gluten-free optional. And the reason why is and some of the boxes are available, like our Brazil is both regular, vegetarian, and gluten-free optional. And that's because we don't provide the fresh ingredients. So you can sub it with like tofu or other protein that's vegan protein, and we describe that on the cooking recipes, on the recipes and the shopping list, so you can use it and use the same spice and the sauces, just change your fresh ingredients.
Well, I know that as a family that is gluten free, that's always nice to see that those options are available. Rowena, before we go, I always ask our guests to share a life hack or homeschool hack. But in your case, maybe you have a kitchen hack that you can share with our audience.
A kitchen hack, yeah. So meatballs, one thing that's in our recipes, we teach about other different meatballs around the world. Instead of most people, like most recipe for meatballs, you kind of fry it. So I actually, our recipes, we broil it. So you roll it and then you quickly broil them, and then you use that in and use a sauce or something to like braise it and make it better. It's sort of like I like to use like bake instead of fry. Like I try to use more oven instead of frying it with oil. So that's, I guess you can call that a hack. The other thing that I just taught today, I was doing a cooking demo for Thailand, is when you're cooking rice, instead of measuring from cup, I grew up learning that to measure the amount of water you need. So you sort of, if you have a pot full of rice, you measure it to the tip of the rice. You measure it like this with your fingers, and then the amount of water is exactly the same from the top of the rice to the amount of water you need. So it's 1 to almost 1.5, because you still have water on the rice. So yeah, that's sort of my hack when I cook rice.
But thank you so much for taking time to talk about Eat to Explore. I'm excited for families to hear about this other option that they can incorporate into their homeschool if they're looking for something to kind of spice up the second half of their school year.
Thank you. I think it'll be a fun way to learn the different, subjects of for homeschool.
Thank you guys so much for joining us. Until next time, bye bye.